I sat at my parents' dining table, surrounded by colorful streamers and the remnants of birthday cake, trying to keep a smile plastered on my face as my mom handed me a small, poorly wrapped package. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," she said with that tight smile I knew too well. I carefully unwrapped it, already feeling the familiar weight of disappointment settling in my chest before I even saw what was inside. A book. Not just any book. A self-help book titled Finding Your Purpose After 30 with a sad-looking woman on the cover staring longingly out a window. The price sticker from the clearance rack at Barnes & Noble was still visible in the corner. $49.99. "Thanks, Mom," I managed as my father nodded approvingly from across the table. "We thought you could use some direction," he added helpfully. "You know, since your career seems to have plateaued." Before I could respond, my mother clapped her hands excitedly. "Now for Lisa's surprise!" My younger sister squealed as Mom handed her an envelope with a dramatic flourish. Lisa tore it open and screamed, actual ear-piercing screams, as she pulled out a set of car keys with the Audi logo clearly visible. "You didn't," she shrieked, jumping up and down. My parents beamed as they led her to the window, where a brand-new white Audi A3 sat in the driveway with a giant red bow on top. "You deserve it, sweetie," my mom cooed, "for finally landing that entry-level marketing position." I stared at my clearance rack self-help book, then at the $40,000 car outside. Wow, that's quite a gift," I said, unable to hide the hurt in my voice. My mother turned to me with an exasperated sigh. "Oh, don't start. Lisa needed the car for her new job. You should be grateful we remembered your birthday at all with everything going on." Everyone laughed, like she'd made the funniest joke while I sat there, the book feeling impossibly heavy in my hands. "I'm going to use the bathroom," I announced to no one in particular, as Lisa ran outside to marvel at her new car. In the bathroom, I locked the door, turned on the faucet to mask any sound, and made a phone call to my financial advisor. "Hi, Mark, it's me. Remember that contingency plan we discussed? I think it's time to implement it." I hung up, splashed water on my face, and looked at myself in the mirror. After 5 years of silently paying my parents' mortgage, car payments, and credit card bills, over $250,000 in total, I was done. They had no idea what was coming. Updated. Thanks for all the support on my last post. Can't believe how many of you have experienced similar family dynamics. Some asked if I confronted them right away. No, I played the long game. Would you have exploded on the spot? Or would you have planned your exit strategy like I did? The painful irony of my situation wasn't lost on me. At 32, I was a senior project manager at one of the largest tech companies in the country, making well into 6 figures, with a team of 15 people reporting to me. Lisa, at 27, had just landed her first real job after bouncing between 3 different college majors and taking 6 years to finish a 4-year degree, which I had partially funded. Our family dynamic was set in stone before we even hit our teens. Lisa was the pretty one, the social butterfly, the one with potential. I was the reliable one, the responsible one, the one who was expected to succeed without praise because that's just what I did. When Lisa got a C in high school math, my parents hired a private tutor. When I made the honor roll, they signed the notification slip without comment. "That's just who you are," my mother would say whenever I mentioned the disparity. "Lisa needs more support." This pattern followed us into adulthood, 5 years ago, when my father lost his job at 57 and couldn't find another position that paid nearly as well. Their financial situation quickly spiraled. They were 3 months behind on their mortgage and facing foreclosure when I stepped in. "Just until Dad finds something," my mother had assured me. But temporary help turned into a permanent arrangement. I set up automatic payments for their mortgage, $400 month. Both car payments, $950 month combined, and their credit card. Minimums, around $1,200 month. I never told them the exact amount, just that I was helping out a bit. Meanwhile, my achievements continued to be downplayed or ignored entirely. When I received a substantial promotion last year, my mother's response was, "That's nice, dear. Oh, did I tell you Lisa's thinking about going back to school for her master's? Wouldn't that be wonderful?" When I bought my condo, they visited once, my father commenting only on the unnecessarily fancy kitchen appliances, and my mother wondering aloud why I needed so much space for just one person. I kept trying anyway. Birthday gifts, Christmas, presents, surprise weekend trips, all met with lukewarm gratitude at best. Lisa, however, could give them a homemade card, and they'd display it on the refrigerator for months. "You shouldn't waste your money on us," my mother would say when I gave them expensive gifts. Then, in the next breath, "Lisa's car insurance is due this month, and she's a little short. Could you help her out?" Family helps family, you know. As I drove to meet them for my birthday dinner that evening, I tried to shake off the disappointment from earlier. Maybe dinner would be better. Maybe they'd remember that promotion I'd mentioned 3 times in the past week. I'd even dropped hints about wanting to celebrate both occasions together. I wore a new dress, did my hair, and arrived at the restaurant 5 minutes early. They arrived 20 minutes late, Lisa immediately dominating the conversation with stories about her new car and her super important marketing coordinator position. It's entry level, she admitted, but my boss basically told me I'll be running the department in, like, 6 months. My mother beamed. We always knew you were destined for great things. When the waiter came for drink orders, my father raised his glass. I'd like to propose a toast, he announced, to Lisa and her bright future. We couldn't be prouder of how far you've come. I sat there invisible, on my own birthday dinner, as everyone clinked glasses. Actually, I said carefully, I have some news too. I got that promotion I mentioned, the one to Director of Product Development. My mother nodded distractedly. That's nice, dear Lisa. Tell them about your office. Doesn't she have the most gorgeous view of the downtown skyline? As Lisa launched into another story, I excused myself to use the restroom. On my way back, I overheard my father talking to my uncle. At least one daughter is making something of herself, he said proudly. Lisa really understands the importance of connections and presentation. The other one just sits behind a computer all day. No social skills. I froze, my hand on the wall to steady myself. Something inside me shifted, like a gear finally clicking into place after years of grinding. I returned to the table with a strange calm settling over me. Hey sis, Lisa said as I sat down. I forgot to ask. The insurance on the Audi is like way more than I expected. Could you spot me for the first few months until I get my first big commission check? I smiled. I'm afraid I have some big expenses coming up. Updated. I'm overwhelmed by all your messages. So many of you asked how much I was paying for my parents. Around $4,500 a month for the past 5 years. That's over $270,000 total. Yes. I kept meticulous records and copies of all transfers. Would you have documented everything too, or am I just being paranoid? On the drive home from dinner, the city lights blurred as unexpected tears filled my eyes. I wasn't crying from sadness exactly, but from clarity. The painful, liberating clarity that comes when you finally see a situation for what it truly is. My family would never see me. Not really. I could win a Nobel Prize, and they'd ask why I hadn't dressed better for the ceremony. The pattern was never going to change because they didn't want it to change. In their narrative, Lisa was the star, and I was the reliable supporting character whose only purpose was to help the star shine brighter. For years, I'd been auditioning for a role that was never mine to play. I pulled over into an empty parking lot and sat in silence, my hands gripping the steering wheel. The realization settled over me like a heavy blanket. I needed to stop, not in anger, not as punishment, but as the only sane response to an insane situation. I needed to stop funding a dynamic that was slowly crushing me. I took out my phone and made another call to my financial advisor. Mark, let's complete the plan we discussed earlier. Cancel all automatic payments to my parents' accounts effective immediately, and schedule a meeting for tomorrow to discuss restructuring my investments. A wave of emotion swept through me. Guilt, relief, anxiety, determination, all swirling together as I hung up. This wasn't about revenge. This was about survival. This was about finally acknowledging my own worth when no one else would. I sat in that parking lot for almost an hour, letting this new reality sink in, feeling strangely lighter with each passing minute. By the time I drove home, my decision felt not just right, but inevitable. The only path forward, I woke up the next morning with a surprising sense of peace. No regrets, no second guessing. I went about my normal routine. Morning run, shower, coffee, work emails. I didn't call my parents to explain my decision. I didn't send angry texts. I simply stopped the financial support that had become the invisible foundation of our relationship. The first week passed without incident. Then another. By the third week, I was beginning to wonder if they even noticed the payments had stopped. Then, exactly 1 month after my birthday dinner, my phone rang at 7:43 a.m. My mother's name flashed. On the screen, hello? I answered, keeping my voice steady. There's been some kind of mistake, she said immediately, her voice tight with panic. The mortgage payment didn't go through. The bank says it's late. I tried calling your father's old credit union thinking, maybe you sent it there by accident, but they don't show any incoming transfers either. I took a deep breath. It's not a mistake, Mom. I've stopped making those payments. Silence stretched across the line for so long I thought we'd been disconnected. Then, what do you mean stopped? You can't just stop. We depend on that money. I know you do, I said calmly. I've been paying your mortgage, both car payments, and credit card minimums for 5 years now. That's over $270,000. Another pause. What are you talking about? You've been helping out a little here and there, but... Mom, I interrupted. I have documentation of every transfer. I've been paying $4,500 a month, minimum, directly into your account since Dad lost his job, sometimes more when unexpected expenses came up. But why would you stop now? Her voice had shifted from disbelief to something approaching fear. Is this because of your birthday? Are you really that petty? I sighed. This isn't about the birthday specifically. It's about years of being taken for granted, of having my achievements ignored while Lisa is celebrated for the smallest accomplishments. It's about being treated as an ATM rather than a daughter. That's ridiculous, she snapped. We've always been there for you. We raised you, put food on the table, gave you everything you needed. You did, I acknowledged, and I've more than repaid that investment. Now it's time for you and Dad to figure out your finances without my help. She started crying then, those manipulative tears I'd seen so many times before when she didn't get her way. How could you do this to us? We're your parents. We'll lose the house. You might, I said quietly. Or you might need to downsize, cut expenses, and live within your actual means like most people do. Dad might need to take one of those jobs he considered beneath him. Lisa might need to contribute to the household expenses instead of buying designer clothes. These are all reasonable options. I can't believe what I'm hearing, she choked out. Wait until your father finds out about this. As expected, my father called 30 minutes later, shouting so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. How dare you abandon your family like this after everything we've done for you? I waited until he ran out of steam. Dad, I've covered over $250,000 of your expenses. I think I've more than fulfilled any family obligation. So what, you're keeping score now? That's not how family works? Actually, Dad, that's exactly how this family has worked. I'm just finally playing by the same rules you've always applied to me. He switched tactics then, his voice dropping to a wounded tone. I thought we raised you better than this. I thought we raised you to care about family. You raised me to be responsible and self-sufficient. I'm simply expecting the same from you now. The phone calls continued all day. My mother called back. In tears, my father in anger, then both together on speakerphone with a united front of guilt and manipulation. When that didn't work, Lisa called. What the actual hell is wrong with you? She demanded. Mom's crying so hard she can barely breathe and Dad's blood pressure is through the roof. Are you trying to kill them? No, Lisa, I'm just no longer paying their bills. Well, I can't afford to take over. You know that? I just started my job, and I have student loans, and now this car insurance. That's unfortunate, I said. Maybe you should return the Audi. She gasped as if I'd suggested she sell a kidney. That's not fair. It was a gift. Life isn't fair, Lisa. I'm learning that more and more each day. The calls continued for weeks. My parents tried everything. Tears, rage, silent treatment, flying monkeys, relatives calling on their behalf. And finally, when nothing else worked, feeble attempts at acknowledging my feelings. We understand you felt unappreciated, my mother said in a voicemail 3 weeks after the initial confrontation. We can talk about that, but cutting us off financially without warning was cruel and unnecessary. I didn't call back. What was there to say? They still didn't get it. They still saw my decision as an attack rather than a boundary. They still believed they were entitled to my money. My aunt called next. Your mother tells me you're refusing to help them anymore. Is that true? I've helped them to the tune of $270,000 over 5 years. Aunt Carol, I think that's more than generous. She paused. Wait, that much? Your mother said you were just helping with a few bills here and there. I have the receipts if you'd like to see them. No, I believe you. I had no idea it was that extensive. Not all family members were as understanding. My uncle, my father's brother, sent me a scathing email about loyalty and family obligation. My cousin blocked me on social media. My grandmother called me ungrateful. It was as if I'd violated some sacred covenant by expecting my parents to handle their own finances. The holidays that year were tense. I declined all family invitations, opting instead to take a solo trip to Hawaii. The distance gave me perspective, and the beautiful beaches didn't hurt either. I sent generic Christmas cards and gift cards. To everyone, including my parents and Lisa, I received nothing in return by month 4. The desperate calls had tapered off, replaced by infrequent, passive-aggressive texts. Just wanted to let you know we're struggling, but don't worry about us. Somehow we'll manage. Or, had to cancel Dad's heart medication because of the insurance copay, but I'm sure we'll figure something out. I didn't take the bait. I knew from my father's social media that he was still golfing weekly. Lisa was still posting photos of shopping sprees. They were struggling, yes, but not in the dire straits they were claiming. By month 6, they had listed their house for sale. My mother sent me the listing with no comment, clearly expecting me to ride to the rescue. When I didn't respond, my father called, suddenly willing to forgive me if I would just come to my senses and help them keep the house. I think downsizing is the right move, I told him. It's what financial advisors would have recommended 5 years ago. He hung up on me. 2 years passed. My parents sold their 5-bedroom house and moved into a modest 3-bedroom ranch in a less prestigious neighborhood. My father finally took a job as a manager at a hardware store, a position he'd previously considered beneath his dignity. My mother started part-time work at a local boutique, Lisa, who quit her marketing job after just 3 months. My boss was like totally toxic, moved in with them. still driving the Audi that now needed expensive repairs she couldn't afford. Meanwhile, I thrived. Without the financial drain of supporting my family, I increased my retirement contributions, took a dream vacation to Japan, and eventually bought a beautiful house in a quiet neighborhood. I made new friends who appreciated me for who I was, not what I could provide. I even started dating again after years of putting my personal life on hold. The distance from my family created space for healing. I went to therapy, worked through my people-pleasing tendencies, and learned to set boundaries in all areas of my life. I discovered that I actually liked myself, my intelligence, my dry humor, my compassion, all the things my family had taken for granted. I still get the occasional text from my mother, usually when she wants something. My father hasn't spoken to me directly in over a year, preferring to communicate through pointed social media posts about ungrateful children, Lisa alternates, between ignoring me completely and reaching out when she needs money, as if our relationship could be turned on and off like a faucet. At family gatherings, the few I still attend, they paint themselves as victims of my cruelty. We gave her everything, my mother tells anyone who will listen. And this is how she repays us. They conveniently leave out the 5 years of financial support, the $270,000 I contributed to their lifestyle, the decades of emotional neglect. But I no longer need their validation. I no longer measure my worth by their approval. Sometimes walking away isn't abandonment. It's the only path to self-preservation. Sometimes the hardest boundaries to set are the ones we need most desperately. The self-help book my mother gave me for my birthday still sits on my bookshelf. Not because I needed its advice, but as a reminder of the moment everything changed. The moment I finally understood my own value, even when no one else did, especially when no one else did, updated. 2 years later, and this post still gets comments daily. For those asking, yes, I kept every receipt, text message, and transfer record. No, I never received an apology. Yes, I'm genuinely happier now. The weight of carrying others who won't even acknowledge your sacrifice is crushing. Have you ever had to make the difficult choice between self-respect and family expectations? What did you choose?